War released on Amazon Prime this weekend, and it stars Chris Pratt, J.K. Simmons, and Yvonne Strahovski, and was directed by Chris McKay. The movie follows Dan Forrester, played by Chris Pratt, as he goes into the future to fight a war against an alien threat which humans are losing. Going into this movie, I was very skeptical for a few reasons. I love the cast behind this movie, but it seems like it's a copycat of Edge of Tomorrow, which I love, but I worried it wouldn't be as good as it, and it would be not as unique. They had a very interesting idea, but I was very worried it would pull like a Purge franchise and be super disappointing and leave you wanting more in a bad way. This review will not contain spoilers, but I will vaguely discuss plot points and moments shown in the trailer. Please remember to like and subscribe and comment which movie or TV show we should discuss next. Firstly, I thought the alien design was pretty good. Very similar to the creatures from Edge of Tomorrow, which is not too big of a deal. The CGI in this movie is great for the most part, but there are a few shots where I noticed poor CGI, especially towards the end of the movie. But that's pretty much the best you can hope for in a movie like this, which relies so heavily on CGI. There are, however, a few breathtaking shots of destruction which use great CGI. I was kind of underwhelmed with Chris Pratt in this movie. He's a great actor in Parks and Rec, Jurassic World, Wanted, the Marvel movies, and so on, and I expected more from him. He wasn't bad, but there were scenes where I wanted more emotion from him and for him to portray more seriousness. He felt very miscasted in this role. He is meant to play more of a light-hearted character, not a world-weary veteran. This role would have been far better handled by someone like Tom Cruise. By far the best part in this movie was Yvonne Strahovski. She was really good at displaying the emotion her character needed to show, since she was in a very emotionally complex situation, to say the least. She really did to this movie what Emily Blunt did for Edge of Tomorrow, but sadly Chris Pratt did not do what Tom Cruise did. I would have preferred much more with the main characters, particularly Dan and Emmy. I wanted to understand their relationship more, which would have made me care more about most of the emotional parts of the movie. I also wanted more with his dad. We didn't really learn why he left, and if we did, many scenes later on in the movie would feel much more meaningful and impactful. I liked how they handled most of the side characters. I really liked Charlie as the everyday guy who was nervously rambling throughout, who Pratt probably should have been casted as, and I also really liked Dorian, the quiet alien killer who has experience. Both were far more interesting than Dan, and the casting decisions for them were much better. The movie felt like it didn't know if it was lighthearted or if it was a serious war movie. It was in the middle for a while, and that really didn't work. One second they were cracking jokes about serious situations, and the next they were all super serious. Chris Pratt could have handled the comedy very well, so I would have preferred they lean a bit more into the comedy once they casted him. But I would have liked being more serious over what we actually ended up getting. I also would have liked if this movie had more horror aspects. There were many opportunities to have great horror moments with the aliens, considering many characters were random civilians who had never really been in these super serious situations before, but we just didn't get many of them. There's also a bit too much exposition in this movie. They even made the common mistakes of showing random news footage. Not even that the characters are watching, just random news footage which tells us exactly what's happening and what we need to know, so they don't have to spend time telling us. They also kept going away from our characters to go to shots around the world. It really bothers me when apocalypse movies do that. I want to see everything from the viewpoints of our characters, not from the viewpoints of random people at a soccer game. There are a lot of really dumb decisions in this movie, which made absolutely no sense from the viewpoints of the characters. At one point, an entire city is about to be blown up along with everything in it, and the guy gets injured, so instead of just leaving him there, a character decides to stay with him and shoot as many aliens as possible before they die. They are all about to be blown up. Who are you helping here? There are way too many instances where they try to help to save people who will die eventually, anyway, no matter what they do, while risking their own lives in the process, for no reason, and eventually it gets very aggravating when they do this. This movie tries to have a bunch of twists, which I like. Unfortunately, they are all very obvious, and you will see them coming from a mile away. There was one twist with Yvonne Strahovski's character, which I saw coming from literally the first second she was on screen. Her first lines, and I was like, oh, yep, for sure. Even though they revealed it fairly early on, it was still aggravating before they did it. What makes it even worse is that I like the idea behind the twist. I just wish they could have kept it a secret better, and then revealed it a bit later on in the movie. There are many other instances which I won't go into now, but it is difficult to be interested in what is happening if you know something you aren't supposed to know. Now I am going to talk about the ending, so this part will contain spoilers. I really did not like the ending. They crammed a ton of lore in through exposition. They spoon-fed us information that the characters could not have known, like we were children. I also didn't like the back and forth and who would die between J.K. Simmons and Chris Pratt, and neither dying was a huge disappointment. Throughout the movie, I thought they were setting up a far more emotionally interesting ending. I think they should have done the following. First, they should have changed their time travel logic, so when Miri says that Dan abandoned them and he died like 7 years after when he left, that actually did happen. They should have also shown us that Dan and Miri had a really good marriage and they really did love each other. Once he got back from the future, no one believed him about the toxin except for the people who were in the future with him and his dad. Then they started mass producing and preparing for the aliens to come once the government refused to believe them, so they had to do it, by themselves. Eventually, his devotion to saving the human race causes Emmy to divorce him, and he eventually has to leave because some people want him dead, because they want the aliens to come for some, generically evil reason. This would make him a far more heroic character, especially after he dies in the car crash 7 years later, because those people do get to him. After his death, his associates continue to make the toxin and save the human race in his honor. I really think they were setting this up, and it wouldn't surprise me if this is an alternate ending or something. This ending also would have not taken as much time because this movie was way too long. It felt like when I realized how long this movie was, I felt like that was way too long for such a seemingly simple plot, and it definitely was a bit too long. Like, the ending was very clunky, and it just felt like, I'm like, oh, is it over now? Now it's over? Now it's over. It's like, oh, 20 more minutes. So I think this ending would have been much shorter, and it probably could have cut the runtime down by about 20 minutes. So sadly, this movie is similar to the Purge movies. It has a great idea, it just doesn't execute it well, and it leaves you wanting more in a bad way. I'd give it a 6 out of 10, so a tiny bit better than the Purge movies, but, still around the same place.